One.
Okay, got it.
Hello there. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everyone. This is Mary Angela Cup, recording live from my home studio at Wheelchair United Kingdom. This is our 29th edition, and we have a very special guest with very, very credible credentials. He is a talk show host at Point of Life. And he is an author, a poet, and a philosopher. He's a freelance writer. He is a business, health, wellness consultant, a spiritual, inspirational speaker. And well, he's got a lot of credentials. He is from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, United States. Well, warm welcome to this very special person who will enrich us again this afternoon with everything that we need, you know, with everything spiritual. I mean, he is a holistic person. So I'd like let us all welcome Michael Levy.
Thank you.
Michael, please speak about yourself. Tell them what you'd like to tell them, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you for having me on your show.
All right, Michael, let's get the ball rolling. My first question is that you said you were born Jewish.
Yes.
Oh, I'm very much interested about, I mean, you know, let's not talk about religion here because everything is a relationship with God. It's not all about religion. So let's just talk about your background as a Jew. How were you brought up and how did it contribute to you being a significant person in our society?
Well, I was born in Manchester, England, and I was British by birth, and I was in a corner row house, terrace house, with no running hot water, an outside toilet. That's like candle if you wanted to use the toilet at night time. No bathroom in the house. You had a tin bath, and you'd boil a kettle of water maybe once every few weeks. You might get in a tin bath to have a bath. So for 19 years, that was my palace, if you will. I went to school and at 5, and I was born with Orthodox parents, Jewish, and we had bar mitzvah. I went to Hebrew classes. I never really questioned it because I always believed in honoring my mother and father. So whatever they required of me, I would do it for them. Although I sensed that there was something outside the actual religion itself that was far greater than the religion. That God is far bigger, far greater than any religion. Because God doesn't have any religion. God lives against us in our everyday life. So I followed it, and when I got married, I brought my children up Jewish up to a point. And then when I came over to America, I was questioning it more. And I did join a temple here in America for more social reasons to get to know people. And eventually, after 6 years of looking out to the balcony and looking up to the heavens and asking lots of questions to God, a lot of answers were coming in. Now, some of them weren't relevant, so I didn't take them on. But after the 6 years, one day I woke up and just started writing it down. And I left school at 16. I've had no formal education. And within 3 months, I'd written 3 books on the Spirit of God and how we're all connected to that Spirit and how we need to follow God's guidance throughout our life. And the yardstick is, are you living in a state of love and joy? Because God wants us. God says all is good in the Bible and in Genesis. And if all is good, there can be no bad. So we create our own badness by what we do as human beings. We create our own evil and we create our own devils. So within that instance, if you're following God's truth, then you live by that guidance And by living by that guidance, you gain the results that God wants you to live. And God gives you those results. Now, if the results are manifesting themselves, then sometimes the connections can be a little bit weak or maybe distorted by many things that we've learned as we're growing up. That can make us disconnected. So if we're not really truly connected, and the sign is 24/7, 365, living in a state of love and joy. And it's God's love and joy. It's not the physical love and joy that you'll see in the dictionary.
Oh yes, I can empathize with that because I believe that religion is not actually very important. What is important is our relationship with God and how we live our life in accordance with that relationship. I so agree with you. Now, um, I now let's dive into your health and wellness consultancy. So what do you do here?
Well, I've written 17 books. The last one I wrote with my wife, who you might see in the backgrounds, doing a little bit of a little bit of ironing and stuff. She can't popping in, but she can give you a wave. Give a wave. And she was a co-author in the book Well, Well, Well. Eat well, think well, live well. Margaret wrote the first 82 pages in that book. And that's more or less about nutrition and what the types of foods do to us, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and why we get sick in life early on by not following God's plan of what He requires us to eat, which is all natural products, earth products. Now, if you eat a little bit of meat, fine. There's nothing. I'm not saying everything's written in stone. You don't have to be crazy vegan or anything like that. Everybody's entitled to their own way of eating, but there are certain requirements. One is you shouldn't overeat. You should only eat a required proportion. And when you're full, and eat slowly. So when you're full, you put your knife and fork down and you don't eat anymore. You come away with whatever, no matter what kind of food you're eating. Now, some people have got strong genes and strong DNA. So they can eat all the kind of stuff they want to eat, all the ice cream and all the other stuff.
Yes.
But in my life, for us, we don't do dairy. So there's no dairy products in our food. We don't put salt in the food. So it's sodium free, because lots of foods have their own natural salts. And we mainly plant-based, but with some of the fish. And as you age, I'm 78 now. So as you age, you need certain supplements. Men need certain supplements, women need certain supplements to avoid getting on medications, because medications have lots of serious side effects to them. And here in America, I don't know many people under 50, or over 50, should I say, that aren't on medications. And the medications build up over the years, because as the person starts taking medications, the sooner they're taking them, the more the side effects kick in. And then they've got to start taking other medications to alleviate the effects of the side effects. I know people here, I live in a condo, which is like an apartment block, and the people that I meet, they're on 6, 8, 10. One guy was on 16 medications. And he died on those medications. So it didn't stop him from dying, but it did prolong his life a little bit more. So the medical profession do a fantastic job of fixing us up when we're really necessary and we need it. And in life, the only certainty in life is the uncertainty. With the best laid plan in the world, the best diet that we have, sometimes your DNA and genes do kick in. And if you're born with a kind of weak DNA and genes, so no matter how well you do, you might prolong the illnesses, but you might not be able to avert them. Now, I might have a very important phone call coming in. If it's important, I might have to cut this short. So you might have to just let me have that into this phone. Hello? No, it's not the one I was expecting, so it's only a spam
Right,
one.
I
So we're
really
fine.
agree with you. In fact, my husband and I don't really, well, yeah, well, not that we don't believe in the doctors, but we believe in diagnosing our own diseases. And yeah, like what you've said, we prefer healthy foods and plant-based and organic foods and all those stuff that we do. We also have some medications here that are homemade. We make our own medications like colloidal silver, like we have a right equipment, and we not that we discourage other people, but it is our own conviction not to take so much medications. All right, so we agree on this point. Now let me just so you're 78 and you're still strong and your memory is still productive. You can still speak. You can still write a book. You can still do consultancy. How did you manage to stay that way?
I take no credit for it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to manage it at all. I don't try and do anything at all. This is the truth.
Mm-hmm.
I am completely at ease with doing nothing at all. God enters our lives as the Spirit of God as we're born.
Mm.
And if we understand that flows through every cell in our body, because
Mm.
you can't live without your heart beating, without your kidneys functioning, without all the organs working in synchronicity with each other. Now,
Mm.
we didn't plan that. God did that all for us. So he
Mm.
gave us all that for us to maintain.
To maintain.
And if we, as you said, you're more holistic and you live that life cycle, you're tuned into God. So if you live the way God wants you to live, then I've never tried to write one word. And I'm also a poet and I write spiritual poetry. And
Oh.
I can pick a book up and write, just go through it and maybe
Mm.
get quote. I haven't got one in front of me, but if you
Mm.
wanted me to, I could write, say one of these spiritual poems for you, for your listeners,
Wow.
so they could
Oh,
meditate
wow.
on that.
Impressive. Okay.
But all these poems of spirituality came in the middle of the night. And sometimes I got up maybe at 4 o'clock, scribbled it down. And in the morning, I just looked at it, read it. I didn't even know I wrote it. So the books wrote themselves, basically. I just had the analogies and the life experiences that I had
Mm-hmm.
and the people that I've met. And I incorporated that into the spirit that was guiding my hand.
Mm-hmm.
And as it guides my hand, the books write themselves, basically. And the last book I wrote was called, on my own, was called Cutting Truths. And Cutting Truths basically allows us to take any perceptions, ideas, thoughts, and suggestions, PITS, which spells the pits. So, perceptions, ideas, thoughts, and suggestions,
Mm-hmm.
filtered in by education, by intellect, and by ego,
Mm-hmm.
mainly control most people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, they lose the wisdom, the intelligence, and the truth that God puts in us from birth. And
Mm-hmm.
every cell in our body is working through that wisdom, through that intelligence, through that truth. Otherwise, we'll be dead. We won't be here. So it speaks for itself. It
Mm-hmm.
proves it's a self-related truth. You don't have to go to anybody if you're living, and all the cells are working in conjunction with each other. And when it starts to go wrong, then you find we've interfered with it in some kind of way. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not against doctors in any shape or form. They do a
Mm-hmm.
remarkable, fantastic job. And I
Mm-hmm.
admire the nursing profession. They do phenomenal jobs, what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And this might be the phone call that I'm waiting for. So
Mm.
if it
I
is,
see the
I'll have to
author of
cut
your
it
book,
short.
please. Is it
Someone
an
sec.
author?
Hello? Hello? It's another spam.
Is
So
it an Amazon?
you see how the devil works?
Mm-hmm.
The devil works every day in our lives
Mm-hmm.
by trying to distract us with something that's going to go on. I've never had spam phone calls normally. Nobody knows my number. But I'm just speaking to you now. Within the past 5-10 minutes, I've had 2 spam phone calls. That's the devil trying to disconnect us from this enlightening conversation between both of us. And everybody's life, they'll experience that. As soon as they start feeling comfortable with themselves and feeling happy, something will come along to knock them off their feet. It's try and distract them from God's intent. And sometimes it's something very severe. So they don't understand it. But if you maintain your faith in God and maintain your connection, whether it be through Jesus Christ, who's a wonderful, wonderful conduit, whether he's God or God himself or conduit to God, I believe Christians do a phenomenal job on that, especially in the Western world. Hindus have got their own way of looking at life, and they have their own God, and they manage to find through gear, through the Brahman and how they, and I'm published in every single religion. You'll find some of my essays and poetry on all religious websites, Catholic, Christian. They've all been able to contact me over the past 22 years, 23 years since I've been writing. And they like the spiritual poetry for them. So you see, there is no borders. People who are truly connected to God, there's no borders in that. The religion doesn't, but some people are dogmatic. And they'll only go through the rituals of what they believe in, and they won't allow themselves to open up to be whole. You see, when you're whole and you're holistic, you're whole to every human being. You're whole to every animal on earth. You're whole to every single plant and every tree, the oceans, the sky, the universe. It's all open to you to embrace and love while you're living your life. It sends you messages all the time. When a tree's flowing in the wind, you can sit and relax and see what the tree is telling you. It's telling you, look, I can bend with the wind. I don't have to be rigid. If I'm rigid, I'll break when there's a storm comes. When we live in our lives and the storm comes and hits us, whether it's ill health or it's financial, then it can break us. It can snap us in half. It can kill us, the shock. But if we've got God's guidance and we flow with it, then we can understand how the tree survives it, how the animals survive it. Animals haven't got any intellect like we have, or any distraction from God. They do what they do. The birds fly, they know how to migrate each year. The salmon can swim 3,000 miles with guidance. Now, who's guiding these flocks? And who can possibly do that? No other. Now, how we interpret God is different for different people. Different people want to have a physical connection to it. For me, it's more of a metaphysical connection. It's more spiritual. It's more in the sense of me being no thing, because that's the eternal me. My soul, all our souls, are no thing. Souls have no form. So they're eternal, and they're the real identity of who we are. Now, as an identity of role plays, and I answer to the word name Michael Levy. When people say, are you religious, or what's your religion you're born with? I say Judaism, because that's what I was born with. That was the label that was stuck on me at birth. I didn't choose it. I didn't choose my parents. But all the labels that we have, when I was at school, I was a pupil. When I'm married, I'm a spouse, I'm a husband, my wife. So those are the role plays that we play, and they're indeed very much needed. It's part of the partnership of being human. So as we're being human, we play these roles out, but understand they're only roles, and they're filled with emotional illusions, which makes us sick. Every single negative emotion that we have in our lives, and most of them are fear-based, fear, jealousy, hatred, prejudice, everyone is based on an illusion of the perceptions, ideas, thoughts, and suggestions, the pits of what we're living, and what the so-called devil has put into our brain, so we can say other human being isn't worthy of us. We're all equal. Black, white, yellow, doesn't matter color, race, creed, wealth. Wealth doesn't even come into this. Money never comes into it. If you have got a mind that lives in love and joy, and you have a balanced outlook on life, then you've gained the treasures of the universe that God has instilled in us from birth.
Oh. Okay, such beautiful words. I love hearing those words. And those are words of wisdom. So who do you coach? Do you have a certain target market for your coaching?
Do you have what, sorry? Do you have what?
Who do you coach? Do you have a target?
Quote? No, in my books, I do quote certain philosophers, but I've never followed any other philosopher. I've never followed any.
Yeah, but you're a coach, right? You're an inspirational speaker and you're a business health wellness consultant. And I'm very much interested in this because my husband is also into what you're doing. And yeah, and in a way, he also had written a book, and I think I will introduce you to him. I think you will really click. Now, I would like to talk about food supplements because you said that you discourage people from taking medications. So you just encourage us to take food supplements. So, for example, what food supplements do you recommend
I don't recommend any
for
supplements.
longevity?
I don't recommend any supplements for anybody. What I do recommend is people do their own research into it. Each person's different, and you can't recommend something for one person. It might not be right for them. So it's not for me. My website, by the way, as a reference for people, is called pointoflife.com. Pointoflife.com. And there's lots of information on there.
Give that URL to me so that we will put it down below so that they can subscribe to it or read through your website. I think this is very informative, and I'm sure it's going to be very useful for every one of us because health is wealth.
Right. So, well, for instance, like say somebody's got digestion problems. So there's certain things that you can help with. In fact, I just got a drink now my wife just made for me. It's got fennel seed, it's got licorice, and it's got ginger in it. And that's an excellent drink for anybody suffering from indigestion and digestive problems. But having said that, people might not be able to digest it because it's quite a strong drink. So if anybody's on medications or anything, it could interfere with the medication. So they shouldn't do any lifestyle changes if they're under doctors. Now, if they're not under doctors, then they should do their own research and look online and see what symptoms that they've got. So, and whatever it is, for men, a big thing is prostate. When they get to 70, a lot of men suffer with prostate problems. So there are supplements out there, and you just got to try and find the ones that will work for you and suit you. For other people, if they want to maintain good heart, CoQ10 is supposed to be good, omega-3s, things like salmon, I've got omega-3s in them, so they're very good and heart-healthy foods. So there's lots of suggestions, but everybody is different, and you can't recommend anything for anybody. I'm not medically trained anyway. I've never been medically trained, so I'm not capable of being able to say to somebody, try this or try that. What I can do is tell them what we do, how we live, and how we've managed to be able to get through life to this age so far without too much interference from doctors. But who knows?
Well, I like that. I've never been to a doctor since I was a teenager. I mean, no, since I was 12 years old, I think. So until now, I self-medicate.
Well, you're still looking very young.
I self-medicate. Yeah, just like you. I mean, you were talking about strong DNA, weak DNA. Maybe my DNA is really strong. I mean, how do you determine a strong DNA from a weak DNA?
Well, if you got longevity in your parents, then you come from strong DNA. Unfortunately, for me and my wife, my mum died when I was 55 through stress, and my father died when he was 74 through heart attacks. So the all my mum's side died of cancers, and 7 brothers and sisters. On my father's side, all died of heart attacks, and there's 4 brothers. So the DNA isn't what you call great, but the fact is you can delay things for as much as you possibly can, and you can only do your best in life. Whatever you can do, you do your best, and if it comes about, and whenever God wants us to go home, then you should go home smiling with the joyful smile on your face. Because you're going back
to your change our DNA, right? We can change our DNA. I think there are a lot of teachings that I've been reading about changing our DNA.
Your DNA.
Yeah, we can change. We are capable of changing our DNA.
Well, supposedly, I kind of written about that at length.
We call neuroplasticity.
Yeah, I've written that at length, but I don't know whether it's right or wrong. It's only most of my stuff in my books come from truth. But as an opinion, maybe I could be wrong in the fact, because your DNA at some stage may just kick in without you even knowing about it. So you just don't know. It's one of those imponderables that no science can't find out the answer to it. As we live more holistically, the chances and your percentages go up dramatically. So it dramatically goes up the more holistically you live. But more importantly than the food and the exercise, 95% is the way we process our thoughts. And everybody needs to ask themselves, do you choose your thoughts, or do the thoughts choose you? But the processing of thoughts is one of the most important things in our daily routine. Prayer can help. Prayer can help. But if we've got recurring, some thoughts like CD that recurs all the time, and sometimes while we're sleeping at night or we're tired, we lose control of it. And because we lose control of it, negative ideas can come in, and it can build up fear within us, and it can start to chain reaction in our bodies. So we've got to realize that when these thoughts come in, they're imposters. They're not real. It's only real in the sense that we accept it, and it's connected into our memory banks, and it's what we've learned. Now, everybody will have a different fear. Some people will fear snakes. Some people put a snake around the neck. Some people heights. Well, people will climb mountains. So everybody has a different outlook on the perceptions, ideas, thoughts, and suggestions, which is the pits. So we're all locked into this into the pits of our education, the pits of our intellect, pits of our ego. And ego means ease God out. So when we ease God out of our lives, and we only accept the perceptions, ideas, thoughts, and suggestions, which most people do today, life has become so much more analytical, and it's become more and more artificial intelligence. And that's another word that's impossible, because God gives us intelligence. God is intelligence. It's impossible to have
We only have 3 minutes more to go. I wish I could invite you again. There are a lot. You're such a reservoir of knowledge, and you're so interesting. I hope I can invite you again to this show, to this podcast. And I'm sure a lot of my viewers will really be interested in what you're talking. You had enriched me today, and I'm sure you've enriched everyone too. Please give them, like pieces of advice or whatever it is that you'd like to tell them for 1 minute, please. And I wish to have you back, Michael.
Thank you so much. You're a pure delight. You're one of God's gifts to humanity. You're doing a most phenomenal job. We've had some nice emails together in LinkedIn over the past years, so nice conversations on LinkedIn. So you keep doing what you're doing, following what you're following. You're looking radiant. And I want to thank you, and I want to thank all the listeners listening in. And again, my website is pointoflife.com, and it's purely as a reference for people so that they can go a little bit further. And on the blog page, there are some spiritual poems that can help you release stress. So thank you so much for your
Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm just going to make a comment. This is divinely inspired session that we have. You know, I set our appointment at 4, you came at 5. I gave you the old link to, I was supposed to give you the new link tomorrow morning, but you were able to log in using this new link. It's something of like unexplainable and I don't understand. So this is divinely inspired meeting and podcast with our divinely inspired Michael Levy. Sincerely, Michael, thank you for your time and thank you for sharing your wisdom to all of us. And I really wish to have you back here on the podcast for more wisdom. Thank you once again. This is Mary Angela Top from my home studio at Wheelchair United Kingdom. See you once again next week for another interesting podcast. Bye for now.